Hey guys, this is the shave for today. This weekend I've had a sore throat, so it's going to be, sorry, not quite as um, good to listen to as usual. It's kind of a black themed shave, isn't it? My shirt, the brush, the soap. Let's just go with that. Abysso from Goodfellas Smile. I believe I've used a Goodfellas Smile before. This is the AJ-1 base. Going to try it with the Slurry Lather today. A little no-name brush, finest badger, as we can tell from the large patch of dark part of the fibers here. 3-band would have a dark like here, and then it would be light again over here. So I know I've used this brush at least once before, and it did a nice little job. It might be a Maggard finest brush or something like that. Timeless open comb, 68 gap, stainless steel, and it's got the Nacet in it as we continue to use that. Maybe use number 541 this time. The video description will tell you exactly. I bet I didn't shave yesterday because I was so sick. I think so. Maybe 2 days of growth. Get some water on it now. The ingredients list here show water as the first ingredient, then stearic acid, and then cocos nucifera oil, which I assume is coconut oil. If coconut oil is first before stearic acid, then sometimes that's a sign that it's of kind of the old school base where it's hard to get like lightly creamy but ultra slick hydration out of it. It does look in appearance like this is a used puck, by the way, like the Razor Rock brand from Italian Barber, and I'm not a fan of that because it's just lower in performance than I like to have. And let's just try it out and see what happens. It's a small knot. It's not a big knot, so I'm gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. You can see how bubbly it is, and I mean really bubbly. It didn't really get much more creamy than that. Usually the stuff that drips down first is more bubbly, and then the stuff up here right around the edge starts to have a creamier appearance, but this is not doing that. I was always under the impression that Goodfellas Smile was a decent brand, but maybe they are not quite as, they're made in Italy. Maybe they're not quite up to par with maybe some of our American artisan soaps. This froth here, this bubbles, I mean, it feels like it's going to do the job, you know? This has kind of an aquatic note to it. I'm going to take some of the froth and do this. You know, I wonder if this is kind of an Acqua di Gio kind of inspired. You know, from Armani. All right, so I'm going to take I moved the soap as I was loading out of the view so that I could hold it over the bowl here and let it drip so that I could capture those suds if that helps. So I did put some more of those suds right there. We'll see if the slurry that I get is going to be shapeable. This has got some firm, just like a lot of, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more water on there. Just like a lot of Finest Badger brushes, a lot of 2-band brushes. It's got some backbone here. And there we go. And that is, because of the size of this brush, I think it wasn't able to quite hold as much water, you know, and so the lather I have on my face right now is more like what I would have on my second pass with previous brushes. But that should be just fine. Still feels pretty slick. Definitely tuggy because this blade is old. It would be fine if it was just one day of growth. It's only lightly tuggy in that situation, and it's not uncomfortable. That is not very enjoyable, but I do tolerate it when I do skip a day. Lately, when I have to skip a day, often I'll just use another blade so that every time I shave with the old Nacet here, it's only on one day of growth. The smell is kind of nice, I think. Splash a little water on my face. Not a lot of kind of residual slickness there. That'll do. Been sick all weekend. Started with congestion. Then I just kind of had to lay in bed most of the weekend. Should be fine to go back to work tomorrow. Keep the drugs in me. And there we go. Splash of water. See, that's pretty good. The cheeks on that first rinse did not carry over too much slickness. But what I just felt now is very nice. So yeah, this soap really doesn't look like it's going to come together into anything creamy. And that kind of, Razor Rock is an Italian soap, and so I wouldn't be surprised if this was the same base. It's just not rich. It's kind of old school in a not a great way. Just a lot of micro bubbles and kind of like Prix de Provence and the MDC, where you can push a lot of water into it, but that's bad because it breaks. You back off to where you get a lightly creamy look to it, a lightly creamy feel to it, and it's too dry. And so it's really hard to hit that little secret spot between those two, between having the lather not be slick because it's broken down because of all the water and then not having enough water. I didn't really need to go back to the brush. I don't know why I did. But yeah, this is just not a great base. I mean, it gets the job done. It's okay. And definitely as long as it's an inexpensive thing. Well, and you guys over in Italy, you may not be able to get a hold of some of our American ones like Sterling, Barrister and Mann, Declaration Grooming, Noble Otter. I'll bet this is the same base or close to it as the Razor Rock stuff, you know. Slick enough to do the job, yeah. And I can feel, they call this the AJ-1 base or whatever because of the like argan oil and the jojoba oil or something like that. Yeah, argan jojoba. Um, and you can kind of feel that there's an oily component to it. And that might actually be killing the creamy aspect of the lather. I personally don't need that extra oil. I'd rather have the creaminess and the slickness that comes with being a good soap instead of trying to nourish my skin and stuff. That'll be good for now. Yeah, this definitely is a scent that I recognize. It, and so I think it's a clone or inspired by something else. So, Goodfellas smile, not really impressive in terms of a performance aspect. Another nice thing about this method, the slurry lather method, is that because you're starting with so much water, you've got your soap, and then they meet at some point, and you or maybe around the third pass, maybe afterwards, you keep on going, and you can watch it become creamy. And this just kind of never got to that point. It stayed that airy, bubbly stuff, you know. So that lets you be kind of diagnostic and critical, at least in how you gauge, how you look at a soap. You should be able to see it at its best with this type of method because you see it with a lot of water. Second pass, usually you see it with a little bit more blended, a little bit more water, and then third pass, usually you see this with a nice, creamy, yet highly wet lather, and that's often the peak of performance that I look for. Didn't waste a lot of soap. This is a tiny little handle. I don't like these handles. Let's see how much soap is kind of left by gradually adding water to the brush and mixing it up in the bowl to see how much lather we're able to kind of generate. This handle is so hard to hold in the... It's like the worst handle I've ever used for bowl lathering, and I guess that makes sense. I mean, it's just so small. There's nothing really to hold on to. But yeah, see, take a look at that. The soap that was left over in the brush. I was able to make into another pass or two of lather. Get a good rinse now. So will the Goodfellas smile, AJ-1 base, work with the slurry lather? Yep, definitely did. Is it a top tier soap? Definitely not. So this little guy he's a small knot. And I think that's where I'm finding that the slurry lather will often need an adjustment during the shave because it just isn't, these knots aren't able to hold enough water to start everything off and keep it going, which is not a really big deal. You just add some water to it, after the first pass or something like that. But this is not a high density finest badger. I can squeeze it down to a lot smaller than the diameter you see there, so I think it's a standard density badger brush. And I think he's capable of working the Slurry Lather, but he confirms again my experience with smaller brushes in that you may have to go back and load a little bit more soap, although that wasn't true in this case. But you may have to sprinkle in a little bit more water to keep it going because it just doesn't hold quite as much. That's good to know. I'll be able to advise people. Now this is an aquatic. Let's see. I love this Full Measure of Mann from Barrister and Mann balm that I've used the last couple of days, and I'll tell you what, it stays on your skin for hours. I'm not going nose blind to it. I'll keep smelling it just for hours and hours. And that's great because it's a heavy smell. If you don't like it, then you're not going to like it, right? Because it's going to stay around with you and you're going to be smelling it on you for a while. At least that's been the case with me. And all right, there we go. So that's one thing I like about Will. There's plenty of things I like about Will, but he doesn't shy away from scent strength, and all of his soaps are tuned to a degree where I'm able to just have a cloud of that scent around me as I'm using the soap. And then at least this case with his solid balms, you're definitely going to get the scent on you for a while after that. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening to my scratchy voice today. And hopefully it'll be better tomorrow. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.